this is going to be a big left turn, so I might have to sit here for a little while. But headed back to home base tomorrow morning. So what I get to do tonight, or rather this afternoon, is thrash legs, basically beyond recovery. Not exactly, but you get what I'm saying. And then keep eating and kind of chill. So I lost a good chunk of weight after the London trip, just about 5 pounds baseline, which is all, I mean, some of it must have been some body fat, a little. But I do not need to lose 5 pounds a week. That's not a steady weight loss kind of trajectory. So after eating all this food over this little trip, I think I should be back to a good baseline something or other. We'll have to see just exactly what I kind of, fluff back up to, but just about a 250 something. Maybe a 250, maybe 257, 258, something along those lines. And that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm coming down from. But in the process, now of course eating less food than necessary to maintain my freaking size, I still am doing everything in my power to maintain muscle mass and strength. So as much as I think squats are going to be off the table as this diet progresses, and like super heavy bench and things like that, just due to the fact that they're kind of not necessary in the case where you're trying to limit your calorie intake, you're just trying to get leaner, I think it's a use it or you lose it kind of situation. So perhaps I may tone back the intensity of my heavy squats, and instead of doing as much weight as possible physically for 8 or 10 or whatever number that ends up being, maybe tone it back a touch and leave a few reps in reserve, just not to completely decimate my whole system. And in a diet, I think there's a little bit of benefit there. Like if I'm training in an off season and I'm trying to bulk up, I'm not leaving reps in reserve. I'm not trying to, I want pretty much every working set at least to be basically to failure. But when you're dieting down and you're basically giving yourself this handicap of, all right, well now I'm not full of 800 or 1,000 grams of carbs today for this leg day, I might have to tone back a touch. Well, then that's a situation where that's going to come into play. But I say that and then I still pretty much just go for it. There's one thing that I think will never change, or at least will always kind of linger in my mind as just a pretty strong thought process and kind of base point to think from. And it's just that the harder you go, the better everything's gonna work out. The harder and the more just excited, just amped I am before I do a leg day. Guess what? It doesn't matter what the hell I do on that leg day. The lift will succeed. Well, the lift is going to be good. So as long as that's the case, and whatever sets I end up picking, I bring it, I think you're all right. And of course that's a nuanced take because I know all the other movements I want to do in leg press and squats and hamstring curls and RDLs and things. Like, I'm not saying you can just walk into the gym with a freaking, good attitude and then know nothing about training and just freaking goof off. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you gotta come in excited, man. It's not going to turn out well if you already don't believe that it will. So I'm not necessarily going to say you gotta believe it to achieve it, but it helps. It freaking helps. If I'm coming in here and I'm like feeling pretty giddy and just happy, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make this leg day freaking happen. The odds that it will, they're at least higher than if I was getting in the car right now and thinking, oh, fuck, legs, oh, I'm not doing it. Unfortunately, a lot of people are out there like that, and that's not something I know how to change. I can show you, I can make a little montage of like a bunch of badass squats to like some kind of some kind of crazy Pantera song or like some whatever, but you can show a lifter hype, right? You can show a lifter the squat rack. You can't force him to bring it like Clarence Kennedy. You can't force him to bring it like let me look it up. We're still at a red light. I don't want to butcher his last name because the guy is a total squat freak. Kyle Curvey, right? I can show a guy as a friggin' 860-pound squat for 3 or something along those lines from Cal Curve, and it's not a guarantee that the guy's going to want to squat, and that sucks. You know, that's not cool. But what does that leave us to do? If we know we're going to bring it, try to set a good example. Simply try to keep bringing it, be the change that you want to see in the world. Hey man, who is to say that even in just a few short years, the stigma of people skipping legs could completely disappear if a couple people just start stepping up and doing it? Times can change. Times can change quicker than you might freaking realize. But in terms of the specifics of this lift, well, I'll just have to see what's going to go down, because I'm not super familiar with the gym. I know they've got some squat racks that look pretty cool, but in terms of extensions and curls, I'll just kind of have to see what's freaking open. But 220 on a Sunday, let's say it shouldn't be jumping. Let's say it probably shouldn't be jumping. I think Sunday is most people's rest day anyway. So I think I'm getting set up for success. But every time I try to predict that, usually it's the opposite, and then it's like way busier than I could ever freaking imagined, and I just totally got it wrong. But that doesn't matter. Even if it's packed, that just means there's energy. That just means there's freaking weights being lifted. That's what I want to see. So, I think nothing else to say. Let's just park this thing and get in there. All right. So this is the part I normally don't show, but let's make squats the emphasis of this lift. Because I mean, the rest it's leg extensions, it's leg curls, it's whatever. I never really walk you guys through the full squat prep. And I've got steps. So really, I guess I kind of already cheated. I didn't show me doing a couple reps on leg curls, and leg extensions, and calf raises, and some adductors where you're squeezing legs together. But I have done no work. Like, I've just exposed my quads and my hamstrings and this whole lower system to enough load where I'm warm. So now I'm in the rack. Now I've got one plate on either side, and this squat is gonna look freaking stupid because bumpers make you look extra strong because the plates are so big. But plate, and if I were to, let's just do full freaking tutorial. Height ends up being just about like mid front delts. I don't want to have to, get super low, and I don't want to have to go on my toes to re-rack it either. So a little sweet spot, and then I can't even get under a bar unless I sit for a couple minutes and just really loosen up here, because my shoulders are so freaking tight in my chest that getting into a squat position a little tricky. But it's much easier when I'm dieting. So let's see how one plate feels. And this should be nothing. This should feel like a bodyweight squat. All right, okay. Oh, there we go. So now I will repeat. I'll do 2, I'll do 3, I'll do 4, and then we'll see what we can move. But let's, I've never seen this type of bar before, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be stiff or bendy. But let's throw 2 on and find out. No tweaks, no pinches. Time for 3. Another neglected aspect of workouts. Looking at the weight, sitting actually like knowing you're gonna freaking do some shit. I'm not mindless here. I'm not mindless. Even though I'm breathing, I'm chilling, I'm scrolling through TikTok edits, which I think is different than like looking at Instagram, because the edits are getting you amped up. Like, go through your saved videos. But I just want to take a second, recenter, get some breath, and then feel what 3 is like, which again shouldn't be much. Like I don't really start to feel like it's getting heavy until about 3. 3 is not nothing, that's for sure. Three is where I might make sure I pick the song to do the warm-up rep with. Perfect. Time for foe. Another unspoken test. Unracking a plate. Right now, oh, I can't do 5. I'm gonna have to put a regular plate on the end. That's okay. But depending on how heavy it feels taking a 45 off, you know, that might affect your morale. I mean, shit. If I picked up a 45 right now and it felt like a 60, let's just say I might throw my game off. But they feel light today, so let's get ready for one more. 4 shouldn't be nothing. All right. Let's throw one more on. Get fucking real and get this workout started. Oh my God. That's not supposed to be so freaking heavy, man. Let's move on. That's the heft of the lift done. All right, so this, imagine you're the bar. Just getting fucking pissed. That's one thing I miss. When a squat like this was new, and I just gotta sit and breathe for a second so we can have our own little one-on-one. But when this weight was like new territory, dude, I won't even have any music playing. And I'm just sitting and it's like, I'm trying to build that freaking, I can't go heavier. Heavier is like, I'm gonna explode my knees. There is no threshold where I'm like, I can just keep going higher. But I wish I had that same like, just, honestly, kind of like fear of squats in a way, like a healthy fear. Because it's like you're cornered, you know, you're an animal, you're backed into, and you just gotta, you know, you just gotta go wild to protect yourself. But really, I'm just trying to delay when I have to put all these freaking plates back. But let's move on. This is gonna be like a jumble of quads, hams, back and forth like that. Some squeezing and leg extensions will be good now. And in terms of relative wildness, this one's not that wild. I want to bring it, But, you know, I'm not gonna rip my quads off here. All right. Okay, come on. Yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh. I sat down for a second and I almost freaking fell off the seat and ate shit. Because like, this leg extension is made for a 5-year-old. My feet are freaking dangling way off the floor. But this will be a light squeezing set. So this will put me in 3 sets for quads, and then I'll do some curls. Or maybe, actually, I might even just do a sandwich approach where quads first, all of hamstrings in the middle, and then come back and wreck quads. When I'm bulking up and I just want a good classic lift that I know is gonna work, well, then I'm just gonna hit all quads all at once, all hamstrings all at once, really give them my full attention. But dieting down, I mean, shit, the set that's given me the most stimulation for my quads was that set of squats, which is already over with. And it was the first one, right? So I don't want to say that this is more fluff work. It's definitely not. But when you're dieting, that's when I've got more room to kind of try new workouts, really try new stuff. Because for me to get a good workout that's going to maintain my size and strength when I'm dieting, it's not that hard, right? The hard part of dieting is the diet. The actual training, I mean, sure, you back off on intensity, you can't lift as much weights, but I think that's where you can make use of like, all right, I've never tried this before. I'm gonna stay the same size as long as I get a good workout, let's try this. And that's where you kind of, or at least for me, I get to explore new ideas for things and just try different stuff. And if I really like it, then I'll keep doing it in the off season later on. But this will be a basic squeezing set here. Partnered with a good song. There we go. I go 1 notch heavier. All right. Two. Okay. Okay. Let's do some leg curls. All right, so I don't know if it's just this machine, but I'm feeling freaking strong on these curls. So let's bust out a few here and then go back to some quads.
My hamstrings are actually freaking semi-fried just from those squats, which I don't mind, but that's going to make me be a little lower volume. So really, I think I'll just do 3 here, back to quads, and that'll be it. And hey man, as long as you pumped and you know it, a short workout is not a bad workout. If you cut it short because you're lazy and you don't want to do it, that's a different situation. That is a very different situation. There we go. All right. Come on. Yeah, this is better. Ooh. One more. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's go working with the guy on leg extensions, if he'll let me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, that's enough. All done. How you doing? All right, so not the wildest day, not the wildest leg day, but I don't know. I mean, I really like the lift to be the crazy part. I love the lift to be like just fucking nuts. But when you're dieting, you kind of have a responsibility to your own goal where it's like, okay, should I rip my quad in half for the sake of a heavy squat? No. So squats will be phased out over the next few weeks. Not instantly, I'm not just gonna cut them off, but they will be phased out. Just because it's your quads, it's your lower back, it's your glutes, it's your stomach bracing, it's your whole, it's as close to a full body movement as I'm gonna do. And it's just, when you're dieting, it's just a lot. So I'm gonna be much more isolated. But let's see, how are calves looking? Yeah, we're getting somewhere. So when you got like, all this like fancy stuff on the side of the calf, like kind of tibial or whatever, that's what I'm really excited about. And dude, I've barely even freaking dieted. Like I'm not substantially leaner than I was like just a few months ago. And it's still feeling, I'm just getting excited. But I'm not gonna rip the pants off. We'll just do a little exposure here. So getting a touch of quad feathering, not much, but it will improve as time progresses. I need the light to be coming in this way a little more, but feeling relatively beastly. Whoops. Nice. That's what I want. I want to be pumped. I want to not rip my quads off. I want to be able to go home, eat some food, and come back stronger to do it again the next day. There we go. Yeah, but dude, good leg day. And not that much volume either. Now, it gets weird to describe training when I'm dieting because it's a very specific kind of training. And it's not what I, like this kind of lifts, it's not what I've done to get where I am now, but it is kind of what I have to do, or at least what's just about right for me to do now to keep moving forward for what my goals are. So sometimes this is going to be a do as I say, not as I do. If, you know, I'm trying to build my quads and you want like a workout that I would recommend for like future growth, well then I'm going to say watch an off-season lift where I'm really trying to freaking hit my quads as hard as possible, wreck them in a good way, and then come back with a stimulus to eat and grow and build back stronger. These lifts are a little more just for the purpose of maintenance. You know, I want my quads to get leaner right now because they're not going to get bigger. Not in a deficit for sure. But, yeah, man, nothing else to say except for bye-bye Monterey. Let's go home. Well, let's get in the car. There we go. All right. That was a good-ass leg day. A little more chill, a little lower volume, but the density of the intensity was what I want to see. So I was just getting into that with one of those guys was, you know, it's like, what is... You know, what's a good workout? You know, how much volume, how many sets, how many whatever, like what's it, right? Do I need to do 20 sets? Do I need to do 5 sets? Now, it wasn't, the actual question was like, well, you know, what should I work on? You know, it's like, he wanted me to give him a scan and say, it's like, do I need to work on my triceps? Do I need to work on my freaking arms? Do I need to work on my buys? Do I need to work on whatever? And, you know, sometimes it's not so simple as that. I think what I would say, rather than like, okay, you know, you need to work on this, and this, or like you need to skip arms entirely and you only do back, you're so arm dominant, I probably wouldn't say that specifically, or I at least wouldn't do that specifically for me. I've had times where I have backed off on my back training, and, you know, I barely do shoulders, but they're big enough, like it's objectively fine. But there is a point, I feel, to not thinking that you have to do more, but kind of trying to reflect and think, what can I do better for my training of this muscle group that I think is a little lacking, and try to improve it that way. You know, because for me, my triceps, you know, I've only really noticed this, you know, as of late, like the last few years, but I think they've needed some more work, you know, relative to everything else. But I think that more volume isn't necessarily the answer, or wasn't necessarily the answer for me. So it's not like I was doing triceps 4 times a week, but instead I think I definitely improved my tricep training as a whole, you know, doing more overhead extensions, really being able to feel them in a dip. Or, I mean, the way that I do rope extensions now versus like even 2 years ago, incredibly different. Like I'm actually holding it and getting all the way up to a full stretch and, you know, feeling my long head and really kind of burning it. Like, you know, I know it's a little cheesy to say put your mind into the muscle, but in that case it really is true. So I don't think it's always like, okay, my arms are slacking, oh, I gotta do more arms, you know. Oh, the engine of my car isn't working, I've got to hit it with a hammer more times, that will fix it. I'm not hitting it with this hammer enough, you know. Sometimes it's not necessarily more effort, but more so a better direction and kind of concentration of that effort. Because I think my training for triceps was intense. Like I was really bringing it, but all I was doing, I mean, at least a good chunk of what I had been doing before, was just the stack with like 3 plates slapped on the side of it, and then doing push downs where I'm like totally overloading them and not getting a full, you know, actual squeeze
and just like staying down here. Like the stretch, it wasn't non-existent. Like I was still getting a stretch, but I mean, it was not, probably not exactly where it should have been, if you kind of catch what I'm saying there. So it's just, something to think about, right? But if you know that you might be lacking in your training a little bit, then a little bit of reflection's good. For me, especially in my off seasons, I need and I think, well, I guess I could go back and do a full accounting, but my pressing volume, I feel, has increased definitely over time pretty well, So now, instead of just doing a whole bunch of leg extensions and one set of squats, which right now I do not mind and think is fine because I'm still just maintaining my quads, but in an off season, right, I need to get a bit more pressing volume, and I think I have. I mean, the last leg days, at least during this last bulking phase, is like 5 sets of regular sled leg press, some hip press, big set of squats first. Like a lot more pressing volume with some extensions, right? I'm not saying no leg extensions, but definitely leg pressing. There's something in there for me that I hadn't been making enough use of, at least before, So sometimes it's not always, like if you go to a chiropractor, right, you don't want the guy to body slam you or hit you with an RKO to try to snap you back into place. You want him to specifically go where the problem is and just give you a little something, right? So it's, I know that it's not as blunt and like brutish of an approach, but if, even as a guy, if you can admit that you might be doing something wrong and try to fix it, you are ahead of the game, right? Most people do not think like that. Right? It's my way or the highway. It's their world and we're living in it, and that's definitely not a growth mindset. That's for freaking sure, So it's, I think there's a weird mirroring of thought processes from the gym into just how you are as a guy or as a dude or as a person, whatever, right? Girl, 4% viewer. I don't forget about you guys. But if you can get over the problem of training and like stick to in the fact that it's a lot of discipline, and like, I don't want to say discipline per se, but it's a lot of energy and time, and you're only doing it because you want to do it. No one else is making you do it. I think you're just going to be freaking cooler. Someone who worked out hard for 3 years, at least if we did a study, statistically, whatever, I think there is a pretty strong likelihood that that person is going to be cooler, more interesting, and just nicer at the end. I'm not saying everyone, but I think a non-negligible percentage will just improve from having working out in their system. I've said this a couple times, and maybe I'm just an ass for it, but when I was in college, and I'd be in a class, and I'm like, who do I want to sit with? And I see the guy who I've been seeing at the gym. For one, we probably already talk, but for two, I'm like, we're on the same wavelength here. We've got something going on in common where I'm like, it's like a freaking stand user, You're always going to be attracted to him in one way or the other, and your paths will just simply cross. And as silly as it might sound to say that, if you actually get the reference, I think it's true, man. So as much as with everything, it's like, okay, I want to work on this. I want to work on any little specific thing you want to improve. Shit, man, with the working out, I'm going to make it as complex as whatever, just, for the sake of making sure I look at it from all angles, but in a little bit more of a simplified approach. I've got the mindset where just the harder I go, the better I do, the more fun that I have, things will just work out. Things will just freaking work out. If you work out, it'll work out. That's a patented Sam quote. It's not the coolest. It's kind of a little repetitive, but I like it. I like that idea. So, plan now. Go eat some food. Get some freaking calories in my system. Splice this little guy together, and then go check out the beach. I've been beached. I haven't gotten beach exposure for quite a while, but I think the water is like freezing, so this is more like look at the beach, not really swim in the beach kind of thing. But that's all I got for today. I'll see you tomorrow back in OHIO.